You know how people can push out or.
It's still hyperextending. It's not, it's not, you don't wanna do it. I don't like, again, it, even if that's something that comes naturally for someone, they're too mobile, like they're hypermobile. And they need to create stability in the surrounding muscles to protect that joint, because that's not, you don't wanna do that, yeah. So it's about, again, creating the stability around the surrounding joint. So that's why the bending helps, because anytime we're bending, you're working like the other, like your calf is bending, you're not bending, it's activated more.
Here's one thing too, like I know people will go this way, right, instead of over the straight foot, so it's a different stretch.
It is, no, it is, like, exactly, so this isn't what we're wanting,
Right.
yeah, it's, this is what we're wanting, because you're gonna get it in the leg a lot more.
In the back.
In the back, yeah, exactly.
It's so confusing, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the leg.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah, going this way. I think too, when you're growing up and you're like in gym class.
It's like,
you're
yeah, right, like people are the runners, yeah, it's like, yeah,
in the middle and get your head to the floor.
exactly, but
Yeah,
then, and
that's
then,
what people are doing.
you know, and kids too, like, what do they wanna do? They're like, you know, they wanna be able to do the things.
Yeah.
Adults do the same thing, nothing changes, like our patterns. So like, it's, you know, you wanna do the thing because it's like, oh, that means I'm like really flexible, or like, oh, it's cool, this is a challenge, let's see who can do the thing. And then it's, you know, you do the thing for like your whole life until you realize you're like, maybe that's not like helpful. Till you come to yoga teacher training. Maybe not. So, yeah, so bends in the joints hinging, bending, helpful. Okay, we'll move on from John Newman. I know I've like spent an hour on that. Revolved head to knee, yes. Parivriti.
This is a very long.
Parivrita Janu Shirshasana. Revolved head to knee, leg out to the side, bended hip. So I think that's in your list, right? I'm like, I know I'm reading from my own, but same thing. Again, I'm not gonna use something under my bone, but like flesh away from sit bones is helpful. Even if you don't have something under your bum, I think I mentioned, you can always put a like support. I think it's my right knee is more sensitive than my left, so I will sometimes support it. So don't be afraid, like I said, to use support on one side versus maybe the other. And then this one, so how I come into it, this is just like kind of my way of, I found it to be helpful, is first, letting your right hand just rest on the thigh. Left arm, you kind of reach out to the left and twist to the left, so I know I'm mirroring. But then you can keep your hand out or bring your hand to your bring it to the low back. And you draw the left shoulder blade towards the spine, and then you slowly slide your hand down your shin, keeping your shoulders stacking, meaning the left shoulder over the right and not this. So the focus usually, like for students, I usually have them focus on the shoulder, the left shoulder. And then you just go to where you can go keeping that shoulder open, flex the right foot. And something that I think that can be helpful, and this is for you to experiment with, is where your hand is. So on the leg, on top of it, is gonna feel different than if you bring it on the inside, or bring it even to your elbow, if you can get it like on the inside of your leg and press in. That helps to turn the chest open more if you press your arm in. So just like in something to play around with.
What is the one if you then take your arm over?
So that would be like, that's part of the, this would be like going even deeper. And I know sometimes we then see the whole holding on and then turning.
So that's the same pose, it's just a more advanced.
Yeah, it's going in deeper. So you can, you could do this, you can do this. I tend to like to move in my poses and then hold, so like I'll do something like a mixture of this, where you kind of round and you get the whole side where your shoulders aren't stacked, but then you inhale, open and come back. And this is like a nice, I think, warm up before you do like something that you're gonna go like in and hold. And then with this, sometimes people are like, what do I do with my head? Because the neck tenses, so it's like, look where, I always just say, look where it's comfortable for your neck. So, you know, you might see in magazines or whatever, they're looking up or whatever, but this is not, you don't wanna look towards your foot, you wanna like find a neutral, chin in line with collarbone is always like a good go-to. Oh, okay, I'm gonna do the other side. So again, same thing, again, however you want to, I mean, you could even do it like this, and then bring your hand down, hand to the low back. Slowly start to hinge at the left hip, keeping your right shoulder stacked or in line with your left shoulder. And you're going to the side until you can't go any further, like without the shoulder rounding, and then you just stop, keep the left foot flexed. I'd stay here for a little bit, because you're encouraging them again to learn how to keep length in the spine and really open the shoulder. And then if you want to flow, it's exhale, reach towards your foot, doesn't matter about touching, inhale, come back. And the difference is with this flow, like I said, is your shoulder unstacks when you exhale, so you can round, and then you inhale, reach back and stack the shoulder. So you really get a nice stretch down the back of the body and your hip even more with that like rounding in a little bit.
Hips.
Is your bum coming up a little bit?
Yeah, I had the exact same question.
So
Just a little, and
So,
then I'm gonna think about it.
don't go down that far. So that's the thing, is like stop, like only go to where you can and then come back. Because the moment your bum is lifting, you don't wanna do that. You wanna keep your sit bones grounded. So just say, keep your sit bones grounded as you move if they're moving, or keep your sit bones grounded as you reach overhead. Just so they know, because more than likely, if something's going on, like say you're experiencing, like what you just said, your glute is lifting. Other people probably are experiencing that too at some point. Maybe not everyone, because like, you know, our experiences are gonna be different, but you're gonna touch someone where they're like, oh, I need to keep my bum down. Like so like it's good to cue certain things, just to like be like, yeah, just, you know, make sure you're grounding through your sit bones when you're reaching overhead, or once say they're holding the pose, you know, focus on your breathing. That's something that you'll never remind students enough of. But you will think, oh my gosh, I say this way too much, but it's a good thing, because people are always holding their breath in poses, or so that, again, just something to be aware of with that. So is Paschimottanasana, that is in there too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a spelling error. Is there a Triang? I think it was supposed to be triangle.
Trianga, Muka.
Muka.
Yeah.
Kapata.
We have it.
Paschimottanasana.
Yeah.
So 3 limbed face to hip, or face, hip, foot. So, okay, so this is half heroes pose, so. Half heroes, wait, I think it's this. So this one is really, I don't like this to begin with, but like, to make it more accessible, because my bum, like the one just fit, like I wanna stay in my left, I'm mirroring, I know, but like my left side, I wanna like round through this bum cheek or sit bone, and like not so much here. So what you can do, block. That even doesn't feel like that. So much better.
So if how would I
I held myself out here, sit on the block as well.
So sit on a block, put that green bolster like this out, just so it's halfway in under the left knee.
So I want this to be, I
On
want,
your left knee.
yeah,
Just slide a lot of it out to the left, just enough, yeah, then you might need to, I don't know if you need to, but see if you need to turn it sideways and puff it up more.
yeah, that's better actually.
Like I said, puffing things up more isn't like a bad thing, because you're gonna press into it anyways, it's gonna feel more supportive. And you'll get a deeper stretch more than likely, like with that thing under the knee, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So
What
before.
about if this knee still hurts?
So if that knee still hurts, so are you trying to get, don't try to get your heel under your bum, like let that leg, let the lower part of the leg, which
It might naturally.
it just naturally does, okay. You need to sit higher.
Sit higher on the block.
Do another block.
So I would do.
Or that big bolster.
Don't do that, no, don't sit like that, it's gonna be uncomfortable. So I would sit, I'm gonna give you this bolster, even though, let's just see. And I might do like bolster and blanket, but sit on this.
So I would require all the kinds.
Yeah, so this is where people get hung up, because they're like,
Right.
oh, I don't wanna do the thing, I'm not saying that you're doing that, but like, that people do, they're like, I don't wanna,
Oh, yes, you know.
yeah, it looks so much better.
And it doesn't hurt. Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
Just
don't
need to travel
suffer,
with
just
something
don't,
nonsense.
but that's the thing, it's like, and again, like, yes, it's like, so that's the thing, when you have your own personal practice at home or whatever, you may have all the things and you can do all the things, but maybe at a certain studio that you go to, it's like, oh, they don't have those things, or it feels overwhelming to be like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna tell all the students to get, just do it, like how I usually teach, and again, doesn't mean that's how you have to teach, but I just tell students, this is what you need for class, so they're not like, oh, running like to get it when we're doing the thing, which tends to happen. So it's just like, you need a big bolster, you need a blanket, you need a strap, you need a block, at least, and then if they then need more, then you would just bring it to them, like, hey, why don't you try this? So again, it's trying to make it comfortable for you and others, so you're not like in pain. So, okay, so what are we doing here? So then for this, your hands can be on the hips. It's the same thing, like again, it's gonna be like recorder voice with me saying this. It's find length in your spine. And so the foot, I know depending on if you have something under the knee, flexing the foot might feel a little bit weird, but you can flex the foot. And you wanna start to hinge at the hip creases, and sometimes even like I will have thumb and index finger cut into the hip creases, so the index finger is what digs in. And you hold on and press down, and then you can feel that hinging. And just keep finding length in your spine. And you're just gonna pause. I just want you to get the feel for your own body without me coming in to adjust. Seeing where you feel like your edge is, like the edge that I keep talking about, just by you going by your own feel and your own body. And then I will, don't get scared, but I'm gonna come around and do minor adjustments if needed. Nice. Bring your head a little bit back towards me here. Drop the chin a little bit, yeah, good. Does that feel weird?
No.
Okay. Good. Yeah. How does it feel for those of you like in the pose? How does it feel? Like any discomfort, anything you need, like that you're like have questions about?
I think the place in the
Everyone
hands
likes it.
helps me to remember to lean forward if it helps.
Yes, yeah, and then
me
you
too,
don't have to,
that's
so you don't have to stay there the whole time, but it's a good, like I said, a starting point for people. Because what are you gonna do if you have, and I'm not saying necessarily you all, but what are students probably gonna do if you have their hands here? They're gonna be like, I wanna go like this. So then hands here, what's that do? It makes your shoulders naturally have to come back, you know, and you can hinge better, so.
Would you say to try to keep your legs together?
So the legs together, no, they don't have to be together, no, because that would be. It
I
just
was
is
just
not
thinking of like hero. Oh,
So-
heroes do not.
heroes,
Full heroes.
but that's different. Your legs are like internally rotating, like in heroes,
Okay.
where like with this, you have a little bit, it's still, you're still wanting to keep your toes pointing up and not go like this, but it just is a different angle, like your legs create like a different shape when you're here. Like my legs, I couldn't get together, whereas like here,
Yeah.
I can bring my knees comfortably together. But when you're in hero's pose too, again, the heels aren't just like, they're not under your butt. They're like slightly out to the side, so your butt is like nestled down between your heels. So that is really like where you're going. That's not where I want you to be trying to get to, but that's like it, is butt down.
And it's normal to have like pressure on the back. Can you do that?
When you're hinging forward,
Forward, I feel like.
you feel it in your back?
Yeah,
Yeah, because you're stretching it.
so that's normal.
It's normal, yeah, right. Yeah, so that's all normal to feel that in your back, when you're coming forward. So again, I know I had hands on the hip creases. As far as other hand positions, I mean, of course, you could bring your hand to your leg and eventually, do the whole relax the shoulders, relax the head. This, what I don't like about this with like, if you're elevated, like I am and a lot of you are, this I think creates more pressure in your knee when you go over. So I'm feeling that with myself. I don't really like the whole, then like go deeper because there's more pressure than going down on your knee. So, let me just see with the block though, what it feels like. As long as your knee is supported enough, mine wasn't with that blanket, because you will feel discomfort and you don't want that. So like I said, having a deeper bend in this forward fold and the knee with the support is okay. Because that actually lets you mimic, think of the movement we did in down dog with the knee bend that I had you do. It mimics that, even where the knee is bent and your torso can fold a little bit tighter to the thigh.
And when I did that, like after I kind of, came out and elongated, but then I folded, I could feel it up higher in my leg. So the stretch just kind of intensified up here.
Right, yes, yeah, so again, that's why playing around with these things in your own personal practice, I mean, honestly, that is like the secret to like really embodying these things, or not secret, but like, yeah, like that's how you get more in touch with like your body and like understanding like how where you feel the stretch. And just because, like I said earlier, you may feel stretched differently than someone else, which usually you do, there's still going to be some similarities. So at least you can call out, like, you may feel a stretch in your back of your leg, focus on your breath. Like that can help someone to get their mind there, or feel like, oh yeah, that's where. But if, like you were saying, like you sometimes don't feel the stretch, say I said something like you feel a stretch in your low back, and you're like, I don't feel it there. I've had students say that to me before in class, and like I said, you're gonna feel it where you're supposed to feel it or not feel it. Maybe it's just not getting into an area, like you might be stretched out in that area. So it doesn't mean there's something wrong or you're not doing it right. It just might not be stretching anything. Like, but so enjoy it. Like, so just enjoy being in it and breathe.
For people that do have, say bad knees or rotations,
Mhm.
just recommend them bringing their leg in.
So I don't even have them. This. I sometimes, so if they can bend their knee, I like either do blocks or like blankets or whatever to like really support that leg. If like the knee's messed up, your head surgery or hip issues, always sitting higher is like, I'll always say that, and I sometimes will just be like, if we're doing something like Janu or we're doing like wide legged, I will just have them, instead of having one leg bent, I'll just have both legs this way, supports under the knees. And then you can do the thing, just without, bending the knee. And then same thing with this, if it was like this, just do both legs and have them, you may be like, oh, well, that seems repetitive, because then they're not doing then the other side, but it doesn't matter. They're just gonna do the stretch for as long as you do on the one side, come back up, and then they're gonna do it again. But yeah, but support the knees, so like, again, just see like what they're able to do, and just say like, these are the options. But yeah, I wouldn't, if it's anything bent, like the half heroes thing, I wouldn't even have them, that is like a no-go, it's like, just don't even, just.
I feel like probably for us, like if we're teaching beginners, we might not wanna go there anyway.
No, I wouldn't go there, because the awareness, there's gonna be a lack of awareness of things, like within people's bodies and just like doing things, and you wanna start like very foundational and then like build up to that. And let's see, on my list, what's next is half bound lotus, I think, Ardha Pada Padma Paschimottanasana. I'm trying to think of half bound lotus. It's been a while. I think this is it. I feel like it's like reference, and then sometimes it's fine. Yes, it is. It's half. So this also sometimes standing.
Yeah.
So like, but so this is another one. Knee issues, like, no, okay. And even like, I'm really tight through my hips and legs from running and cycling, but like, I mean, yoga helps, but it's still, I'm tight. So like, but this is usually where the foot is in like your hip crease. So it kind of mimics like the hand. And then, half bound, so the bound would be hand around on the foot and we're going forward. But half bound, you're not binding like that. So I don't honestly, I forget the half bound part of it.
This is hard for me to even get my foot into my hip crease.
Actually, I think this is half bound, just like without having any, you're just, hand positioning here, I prefer hands back and not like, what do I do here? You can go over the straight leg, but I do hands back and then come forward. But yeah, yeah. That I never teach in class. It's just, it's just not, like, yeah.
So then, cause full lotus then, is that considered a full lotus?
So full lotus, like, what do you mean, like, as far
Well,
as,
this is half bound, is there?
when you're
is
doing,
there a full bound?
well, yeah, there's like
Is that like this?
but, yeah, so then you're like having the feet, like, yeah, and then there's.
Is
the
that
full-
still considered a forward?
No, if you're then folding forward, yeah, then it would be. So anything, not anything, but like a lot of the things that we do seated could be, a forward fold. But again, the two things are the elongation through spine and hinging at the hips that you're focusing on. Yeah, these ones, like, again, I don't teach this really.
I feel like they teach it more frequently.
Yeah, that's where, anytime I've taken a class, it is usually taught there, but again, that is something too that is,
Tree variation.
interesting because, but it's still, is really tricky with the knee. the whole
Yeah.
knee issue. And then, going around and then, you could really, I know we're doing forward folds, but I was gonna say, but this whole thing with the balance, it's so easy for someone, including me, to lose their balance here. And then you're like flinging this leg out to try to get yourself supported before,
Yeah.
it's just it's dangerous, like it's not something that I would recommend.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, some of you may be familiar with that and do it. Not what, I know part of this is teaching you it too, but it's again, like it's very, the way that I would teach it, if you're going to do it, like if you're like, okay, it would be against the wall. Your heel wouldn't be at the wall a few inches away. And then, it's like fall. And even this, like, it's like you have to have your foot far enough away that you feel, yeah, this feels right. Enough that you could then open up. But again, we want to lengthen, and I would have blocks under my hand. So this isn't, again, really ideal either. But I'm just experimenting with you all or in front of you all. But the blocks definitely would be something that I would say, have students use if they were doing something like that too. I mean, even whether at the wall or not. But I'm going to show you at the wall because I wouldn't really teach it. That way you can maintain length in your spine, or you can even be on your fingertips and do that. Again, yeah, no, not really, not super accessible for a lot of people. So it's definitely more of an advanced thing, but I'm showing you it because it's on the list. Yeah, hand grasp, big toe. So Marichiasana. So this is sage pose? Yeah. Isn't it sage pose?
Yeah.
So this one, if I'm remembering it correctly, is, I don't know, I'm forgetting if there's, I wonder if it's in here. I know there's the bound version, but then there's also, I think, just not bound.
See it in there.
Yeah.
Is it not in that
It's
string?
not in the forward website.
And I don't, like, I look online sometimes like I am doing now to see, but you can't rely on online because Himalayan, like their poses are sometimes different than like, I remember looking when I first was taking the teacher training, I'm like, let me see what these poses are. And they'd be like different in different like kind of lineages. Okay, where are we looking at? Marichiasana. Yeah, so this, they do show it, it is like, it's bound. So I teach it, so without just going into bound, be strapped, you would have strap behind. So strap behind, but, and I would take it, you bring your right arm, so I'm not mirroring now, but right arm, you fold forward and you bring the right arm in front of your right shin and you keep your, you walk your foot out just a little slightly, but then you start to fold forward. So I'm rounding some, but I like kind of back out of it. I don't know if my spine is long, can you tell? Is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
alright. So this is the pose, or you're holding on to. This, I feel it a lot in my shoulder. Again, it's hard, it's a hard one. Foot, you can walk out a little bit to like just kind of first position, get into it. And I would say probably strap in the left hand first, give yourself slack and bring it around the back. And then you wrap your left arm, depending on what side you're doing, in front of your shin. And you start to fold forward, but then lean back, like I say, with like leaning into a wall. So you lengthen through the spine. Yeah, I know. And the hard part is hugging your leg in towards your sides. That's the awkward part, is you wanna keep pulling it in. And then it like kind of like twists you. But you wanna pull in. Oh, my shoulder, yeah. No. Yeah. Another, what did I say yesterday? And you need to practice the things that you don't, the poses you don't like. Obviously, I'm not really. This is not one that but the strap is like again, like really the only other way to make it accessible. If I do teach it in class, I don't even do the whole binding thing. I do, I'll sometimes just have them bring their hand to their shin and try to lengthen and use the leg strength, your hip strength to pull in. So you pull in as you come forward.
Yeah, this shoulder
It's
just
just-
doesn't wanna relax.
And it's hard to because it
Yeah.
goes, it's up there anyways, like it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
it's- And it's a lot of like chest open, lean back, like so you resist as you, even though you're coming forward, you lean back.
Right.
Right, and it keeps moving out, yeah. What else? In my notes, I think this might have been for, yeah, the one above, can do standing up, I'm like, I don't think this is the one that we're.
Is seated forward then, is that staff pose?
Is seated forward bend, well, staff pose is just staff pose, like this is
Without
staff
bending.
pose.
In the book, it's interesting, it's in the forward mindset.
Does it say, wait, it says staff pose? So that's the thing, this is where it does get screwy, because
Yeah.
sometimes, so tell me, yeah, just tell me if you, yeah,
I mean, it's within
it's in,
the forward bend section,
okay.
but she's not forward bending.
It's probably like a prep.
It's, yeah,
The
I think it
seated
says like it's the
forward fold.
foundation. Yeah.
Got it.
so yeah, so you would start, start in staff, and then, you would start to hinge at the hips, lengthen through the spine and hinge at the hips, come forward.
Right, and then that's just.
Yeah, so it's like seated forward fold, but starting in staff position, or however you wanna, I mean,
So then in the manual, it says, seated forward bend.
Yeah.
Is that just this with both legs? It's Paschimottanasana,
Paschimottanasana, posterior stretch, forward bend, yeah, so it's both hands,
and both legs.
one, yep,
Okay, got you.
yes.
Whereas before we did like Janu,
And we're doing
Shavasana,
straight ahead,
that's-
yeah, right,
okay.
Janu, and then this, yeah, would be strap around the feet.
Okay.
Again, don't just go to, even if like how I'm grabbing my feet, if you can grab your feet, don't just do that, grab the strap, do the strap, or if you don't have straps, hands next to the hip, hinge forward. So again, it's step one, find length in the spine, lengthen through the crown of the head. Step two, hinge at the hip slowly. Folding forward from the hip creases and then leading with your heart and keeping your head as if it is pressing into an invisible wall behind you. And then your elbows, if you're using the strap, you give it yourself enough slack, the elbows are next to your torso and you're hinging. Yes, great, yep.
Two questions about that, Abby.
Sure.
One is, what about having your arms overhead and like using your hands to lengthen? And then dropping them when you feel that your hinge has.
Yeah, you can, I mean, I do like a flow where inhale up, exhale, and then you round, and then you come back, and then you. So it's inhale, so I exhale the whole way down, and then inhale. Exhale, so you find and sometimes students will go really fast through this and blow through it, that's why I've said to you all like many times, slow down. Because people will just like collapse and like collapse, so the slow, because it's hard to do this, like it's hard to stay erect. And then you can soften when you're like, okay, I'm at my max.
Mhm.
But, and then the whole surrendering here and dragging back is important, because you need to be using core strength if you're gonna lift back up, and you're not, like at this point, core is not engaged. So you wanna just slide back and up, you can engage core, hinge at the hips. And then whenever you're like, I can't anymore, you soften. Oh, I'm sweating just thinking.
And what about, I've had people teach where you're starting here and then like your knees are back.
I'm
And
trying
then,
to.
and then like straightening them.
Oh, like
Oh,
this?
yeah, so the whole, I've never started that way, but I think I know what you're talking about, with like, is it a stretch though, like for your, I actually don't know what you're talking about, to be honest, I don't think.
I think the point was to see like the action of, maybe it has to do with forehead to knee. But like making it accessible from the beginning and then straightening. I don't know.
I've done that.
Yeah.
Pushing
Do you
your butt
remember?
back and then-
Do you remember the point?
Yes.
What's the point of doing that? I can't remember the point, but I know
Because you
that I
can't straight away do that, so you first bend it and then
Yeah.
slightly stretch your butt back. And then do that. I
Okay,
think, yeah.
I
I've
don't
done
know. I
many
don't know.
classes, especially Kino McGregor. I've done like lot of her classes, same thing like
okay,
going back, Ashtanga.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure the point. I don't want to confuse. I just,
yeah,
I thought it was
Actually, I've done
another
that,
way of
yeah.
coming into it.
yeah, I mean,
Push
again,
your butt back and then first you do that and then.
it still doesn't, my butt's not even moving back, my heels are moving back.
Something like that. I hope I'm saying it right, but I've done it. What you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is you can, do what you want to do, really, I mean, in adding things into your class, just because, we're teaching you the Himalayan way. Like, so that's not how we teach or something that I'm familiar with, but that doesn't mean like, just because I don't teach that you shouldn't do that, it's just, yeah, I can't really speak to it, other than like saying, like, I don't know, maybe it is helpful for alignment, but I don't know exactly like how to do it, but like, I wouldn't start there.
Yeah.
I would start here,
Right.
not like, oh, I'm gonna surrender and then I'm gonna,
Mm.
whatever, come back. Most
Yeah,
people,
it's so
again,
hard to quit anyways.
most people lack, and this sounds wrong, and I don't mean it in a mean way, most people, the body awareness is
Yeah.
lacking, and if you're starting here
Yeah.
and you're trying to like then go here, most people are probably gonna do this, they're not gonna be like open, so that's why I would just start where you want them to be, like lengthening, and they have that memory of like, oh, this is lengthening, okay, and then they slowly build like finding the edge, because of course that's something that takes time too, but you're there to like help refine that or help them to feel that in themselves more by like saying like, oh, just bring it back a little or whatever, but then I feel like you could move into something like that. If you like that, and you're like, I wanna add that to my class, then you can do that, but I would start like, again, somewhere where it's really focused on like the main points of what you're trying to do in the pose, the finding length.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So there's many of these, and like some of them we clearly are like, we probably wouldn't do this, and
Mm-hmm.
so is the expectation that like to like teach all of these at some point, or is there some subset that are like more of like the core ones?
So, I mean, I would say,
I mean, it's like as part of the training certification, not
Right,
like,
yeah.
10 years down the road.
That's a good
Right.
question.
so, I don't, I would ask Kate that too, but I feel like it's good to know. That's why personal practice is so important, like, doesn't have to be, I mean, I think, and I say this to like all the students that I come in contact with when I teach teacher training. Like the first thing I did when I started like going through teacher training was just establish a personal practice. It doesn't have to be like super long, but like it's just being really dedicated to that and experiment with these like things that we're learning and be like, oh, this is how it feels in my body, or like see what other ways, maybe you come up with a different way of coming into it or something that you found to be helpful. That's how I found out like how to like tweak things a little bit, or maybe it seems like, oh, I haven't done that too often in a class, or that seems different. A lot of the times I just, it was experimenting and like this then ended up working for me and it works for other people. And so, yeah, experimenting with your own practice is gonna be helpful for, again, the embodying of like, how would I teach this? And also like, you can also like think it through, like, what would I say to someone? So you could even like, when you're in your practice, like talk to yourself. It may sound funny, but like, you know, ground through your sit bones, like through your spine, you know, bend this leg, that, you know, and so I know I'm like going off on a tangent and like it's a long-winded answer to your question, but I would say it's good to know like the basics of, you know, how you would teach it, because you don't know, like, I mean, there's gonna be like today, which we don't have much time, but like, oh, we have an hour, good. You're going to be doing practice teaching with forward folds, so get excited about that. So again, like I say that, I know I'm being sarcastic, but like this is a time for you to like, it's not about being, like I keep saying, perfect or like doing it right. You're just trying to find your voice and trying to like figure it out, and that's very anxiety provoking usually. I mean, and you know, whatever goes in your mind, through your mind, like when you're talking, you might be like, oh, I don't want to sound this way or that way. You're all learning together. Just because I am your teacher, like I'm still learning. I'm not like Joe, the master of whatever. I mean, I know a lot of things, but that doesn't mean I know everything. So, you know, I always mess up. Okay, like, you know, that's okay. Like that's part of human experience. With like, you know, we learn and we, you know, grow with, you know, not messing up, but like, you know, maybe we do something that doesn't, we say something that maybe isn't very clear in like teaching, you know, when you're teaching, practice teaching, it's a teachable moment to be like, okay, that's not helpful. So like to your teacher in the practice teaching, your partner, you know, having a conversation about, okay, like, you know, this, you know, what if you said it this way, or this wasn't clear, and just have a conversation about it. It's not, you know, ripping, you know, your partner apart. It's just like, hey, this would maybe be a little more helpful, and then you learn from that. The last thing I'm going to say, I know I'm on the tangent still, but I encourage you to, when you are being taught by your partner, do exactly what they say. So don't say come into down dog. Don't say come into warrior one. That's like cheating. Do exact steps. This is what I want you to do. Come to all fours. Round your toe, wrists are under your shoulders, knees are under your hips. Round your toes, start to lift your knees off of the floor, lift your sit bones towards the ceiling, and then how would you ground through the hands? Like, so not saying the pose, but you know, or face the short edge of your mat, come to the front short edge of your mat, step your left foot back. Feet are about a leg's distance apart, feet are on separate train tracks. So like, again, you're not saying warrior one, because what does everyone do? Go into warrior one and then they float, put their arms up. Maybe I don't want your arms to be up. So like, that's something I'd encourage you throughout training to just like test, test yourself. And like, it's challenging to do that, but try to, you know, like I said, say what you mean, you know, try to be clear with your words. Yeah, I don't know, more will come to me, I'm sure. Yeah, I'll stop rambling. But yeah, so going back to what you asked me 10 minutes ago, no,
I
but yeah.
guess maybe more of my question, like, as I'm like refining what my question really was, is like, so some of these things that, you know, aren't as like clear what they, like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
We did, and they're not necessarily in the book, so is there a reason, like, yes, I can maybe fumble through them at home, but I don't also wanna be doing them wrong. So, and we talked about like, you just Google them, they may not be teaching you right. Is there like a resource that you would recommend, because it was like hard to take notes as we're like.
Yeah, so, I forget what like the current list of what you're asked to, like what you get with the teacher training. I mean, yes, I know some of them are
Or
not
like,
in
is there like a
mastery.
website that you're like, okay, this is actually like a good one? that you can
So
use?
I should know this, but like, I mean, I don't know if like Yoga International, like a free resource, I would say, again, I would say look online. Yes, you're gonna get some different things that pop up, but just see what they're, like the overall kind of general theme of it is. And also like, you know, our books, like a lot of the anatomy books will have, different poses in them. I'm just thinking of like what I mean, the resources are so much more, there's like so much more available now than there even was when I took the teacher training. Honestly, I like looked online, but that's where I said like, I'd be like, what is this? This isn't what like Kate taught or whomever taught, like, this is different. So I know that's not really, yeah, look at books, look online, of course, Himalayan Institute, like resources, Yoga International, but they, like, I mean, there's all kinds of teachers on there, and you do have to pay for the content with that, but I think for the most part, you're gonna find like similarities, or like, oh yeah, this is like across different like styles of yoga, this is like a similar thing, but then there's gonna be some of these, like we're talking about, that like stand out, where it's like, what is this, or I can't find this, like, well, I think Karmasana probably, that's something you can find online. This is really hard. This is another one I never, has anyone tried this before? Karmasana, it's frog, I think it's tortoise, though, not frog. And I have to remember, because I honestly, I think it's like your arms, like, you go like, I don't even know. I think it's like something like this. I'm gonna have to look it up online. But like, or something like your arms are down. Again, let me look. Yeah, so they have their legs, oh, I was wrong. Their legs are straight out. Legs, for some reason, I thought I was like this because it's easier actually to do it this way. I mean, even though it's hard, this is so awkward. Like, I can't even do this. Like, I mean, there's no way. They're like flat to the floor. Legs are like this, but their arms are like this.
Like under the legs?
I mean, that's what the picture should, under the legs. Like, the woman is like, I don't know if you, like,
That's,
it's very awkward. Like,
Yeah, I used to do that.
okay.
they do.
Not me.
I can't.
Some people have like wider, like, but still like,
I was in class the other day.
I don't know, like,
And there's a woman who was.
I would not, like, my arms are hyperextending.
Straight up, like.
Yeah.
Smooth legs. I just can't even.
Again, I think like you, like,
How does this look like a tortoise?
I know, we're in the shell, it's because your spine is like, has to round, I feel like. It's very awkward,
That's tough, yeah.
they have also like people experimenting with like this, which I feel like would be like more accessible if you're gonna find length in the spine. This actually feels nice. And then like you could, I mean, you could go like this. But I mean, and then like, I don't know, like still it's awkward though, like walking the feet out, it's like, ow, my heels.
I live alone, I don't want someone to
Call the paramedic.
Like,
and
you
be
need
like,
one of those buttons around your neck.
Life
Do that.
alert. Yeah, life alert.
So
Yep.
there must be like asanas specifically this to get into the statue pose.
Right, so don't, like, again, so that's, I guess also, that's a good thing, like, to, like, that you're saying that, because, yeah, some of these, like, not as accessible poses, like, yeah, don't think about like, oh, I have to do that or teach that, but like, what is, like, we're saying, like, similar, that's gonna get the same, similar effect, I mean, very similar, and actually allow someone to, you're actually getting more of an effect having someone do this than like having someone trying to get into something that they're not even lengthening, like, this is doing nothing for like energy flow or like opening, this is, because again, you're connecting to the length in the spine, we're strengthening the spine.
That might be discouraging for a new
It
student.
is,
to
well,
try to do
yeah.
something like that.
It is,
They
like
might not come
confidence is just like,
Yeah.
and then it's like, I can't do
Right.
yoga. I mean, that's how many times I've heard that, like, it's like, no.
Well, also too, like the way I look at it is if I can't fully execute a posture in a good, safe way, a student's not gonna wanna come to my class.
Right,
So that's why I think you were saying, Abby, about like, start to establish your personal practice, like, you know, and think about what you like and don't like, but at the same time, challenge yourself, like, we're learning these things today, even if they're not gonna be on our
Right.
top 5, but
Right.
you know, yeah,
Right.
For our own personal practice.
yeah.
Right.
Learn it and advance and.
learn, exactly, so learn it for yourself, even like I said, just for fun, like go through the list, that's what I did. And again, just because I did that doesn't mean you of course have to do that, but just telling you kind of like how I did things. I went through the list, I was like, I looked it up online, looked at my books, reference, like cross-reference, checking, like, are they similar, is it the same? And then I would just like play around with creating a routine, like off of that, like to, okay, I'm gonna do the forward bends, like the forward bends. Maybe I took all the forward bends and I'm like, let me warm up and then I'm gonna do the forward bends. And then you get to know those a little bit and then move on to another section. Again, you don't have to like do it a lot, the ones that you're like, oh, I don't like, but just get a feel for them. Because again, it's gonna come across a lot more authentic and like just natural and comfortable the more you actually do it.
Yeah.
It's harder to be like, do this when you've never done the thing.
Yeah.
And then you can potentially, you know, you don't wanna hurt anyone or get them into, you know, so that's why it's best to, I'd say like, get your own like solid foundation with a lot of the poses and then try to teach a friend. Like you don't have to, again, like, and that's probably what Kate will say, or like, I mean, you know, teach people, you know, a partner, a friend or whomever, a family member, like, hey, I want to teach you something, someone that you don't feel like, oh, like judged by and you can like play around with and then get their feedback or whatever, you know.
That's what it is. No, go ahead. No. So Kate was like, that's what she told me, if you cannot do a pose, you don't want to be teaching first, that's what first when I told her, she said you have to first get a foundation and then only teach that pose. Otherwise, how are you gonna, because I myself don't know the feeling, right, of the entire pose.
Right.
So then it's hard to teach others,
Yeah.
the feeling of it.
Yeah.
That's what she told me. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay, I was just gonna ask why standing forward bend is not listed. And that's like the basic forward pose
You're
I
right.
think of.
And it's understanding poses.
So,
But you're
I mean,
right.
what is it, Paschimottanasana? I mean, yeah, I don't know why. Oh, you know what, my segment does have, Uttanasana. Yeah. So, I don't know why that does not, but let's talk about it. So, yeah, Uttanasana I would use 2 blocks, kind of similar, I think I showed with the, whatever that, the half bound, or the bound lotus. So again, main thing, you come to standing, you're lengthening, and once you're finding length, I do probably either hands on hips, is a good place to start, or hands at heart center. But feet are about hips distance apart, and you start to, you find length in the spine, lengthen through the crown of the head, and start to hinge at the hips, and start to bring the torso forward, keeping the length or maintaining the length of the spine. And again, you're coming down to right before you want to round, and then you can bring your hands to blocks under the shoulders. Of course, like at some point you may, surrender deeper. The other options are holding onto the big toe and lengthening. And then I've seen this too.
Also, it has bending the knees too, to bring the chest to the thighs.
Yeah, you can bend the knees. Bending the knees for if the hamstrings are like really tight, and if that helps someone to lengthen through their spine more. But you don't want,
Why aren't you letting your head go?
why am I not letting my head go?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know, I was just looking forward, I shouldn't have been. Yeah, so, I mean, I think my neck is long at this point. I don't know, do it with anyone
Well, it looks long, but in the pictures it's shown drop.
Hang.
hanging?
Yeah,
See, to me, that would be more like,
That's a surrender more, like this is,
Yeah.
you wanna find length
Oh.
first.
okay,
So
okay.
I'm finding length
first
first,
spine and then.
and you don't wanna just like be like this. Yeah, no, because I'm finding, I'm active, remember, I like to start active. And then, so this will be active, or, even this is active, lengthening, and then soften.
I think that's a good expression.
So when you're active, like as you're referring to as active, I've heard people say, like find like a halfway lift feeling. Is that the same thing?
It is, yeah, I mean, I think that's
I
kind of
feel
what
like
I
that,
was
like,
doing
makes
too,
it
is
Right, I mean.
it is like halfway
physically,
lift,
that's what you're-
exhale would be like a fold forward,
Okay.
halfway lift. Fold. So you could even experiment with like having students do that where you surrender as you exhale, find length as you inhale, or like keep the knees slightly bent and just do that with the spine.
So it's interesting because you wouldn't do it the way you just showed us if you're doing a sun salutation.
What do you mean?
Because I think you're more folded all the way down in sun salutation.
So sun salutation the way,
Well,
so when you do come down, it's fold forward, so it's surrender,
and then.
lengthen, and then it's,
Yeah, so there's a little distinction
So
between
it's-
the two.
right, so it's surrender
Like a
first,
halfway up.
lengthen half kind of like that tabletop, but not really. And then you keep the length and shoot the leg back, other leg back. Mhm. Yeah, so you get both going on. And then, so something else I don't think we went over with like some other counter poses. So we went over bridge, upward facing plank. This is one of like, so this is where wrists are under the shoulders, huh? No,
Oh,
Upward.
would that be another one?
fish could be, yeah, that, I don't know if they have it listed. They don't have it listed, but yeah, you could do fish. So upward facing plank. I cannot,
Okay, yeah, I don't understand.
so hard. So like, I mean, if you do it, like, it's just like, I mean, I sometimes will just have people like lift and lower, which I mean, not that it's any better, but you know, because coming up and holding is pretty intense for, I mean, I'm feeling it in my arms, but I don't know, everyone's gonna feel different places. What else? Let's see, reclining twist, seated twist. Yeah, camel. You could do as a release. And then, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much. I think we pretty much went over most of them. I mean, if we're doing standing forward fold, wide-legged, so facing, I'll just like act like I'm teaching myself, so facing the wide edge of the mat, step your feet above the legs distance apart. Feet are parallel to one another, toes can be slightly turned in if you'd like. And then you can, if you want to use a block, you could do hands at heart center, block at heart, and you press into the block. So lengthen through the crown of the head. And on your exhale, you can start to hinge at the hips, holding forward with a straight spine. And just coming to your edge right before you went around, and then slowly you can inhale, come back up, pressing through the outer edges of the feet. You could also do hands at heart, exhale, fold forward with a straight spine, inhale, reach out to the side, up overhead. And I know these are just kind of additional things, I mean, off of just forward folding here, just to kind of get you into it. And then when you come down, you could, you know, have students use blocks. I know these are different heights, but you know, you can finally kind of trying to keep the length of the spine and fold forward. I don't know actually if I am keeping length. I feel like I'm rounding a little bit. But you can tell me if I
You look
am.
pretty strong.
I think
it's
good. Yeah.
Okay. It's weird because I feel like my upper back is like rounding, but I think I'm always really hyper focused on that because I tend to round. A little curve in your neck. Okay, like curve, like I'm looking forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm wondering if that's because you want us to be able to hear you, like
Probably, yeah.
subconsciously.
I keep going like
Yeah,
this.
because I thought that before.
Yeah. You know,
Yes,
that's good.
it's a-
Yeah, that feels good. So this, you know, if you didn't have blocks, you can do, or just hands on hips again, because that gets the shoulders back instead of having the arms like this where the shoulders are, you know, or hands clasped, hands on the low back. And then to come out, I just heel toe the feet a little bit closer together, and then sumo squat, hands can be at hips or heart and come up. But that's pretty much it. I think I went through. Didn't we go through everything? I think.
Did we do seated angle pose?
Maybe not.
So
Seated angle.
we did revolved head to knee, but would seated angle be the same, just not turning your head?
I mean, where, seated angle. What is the Sanskrit? Upavista Konasana.
Yes.
Wide-legged angle pose. So that's where, actually, we did do that, but what it is, it's what I did here, this is it.
Oh,
But then this is Janu, or wait, yeah, Janu, right? Yeah, this is Janu. This is Upavista. Right? Konasana,
So
yeah.
there, I think there's two, so that's the one, that's seat, at least according to that seated side angle pose. But then there's seated angle pose, which is Upavista Konasana.
Okay, let's look it up. 144.
So that's another like it gets confusing because
Yes.
they're so
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah, that's on 144 in the book, it looks like
So-
the legs are spread.
Oh,
Yeah, Uba Vista, here's what like it's showing online is
okay.
just this.
Yeah, that's what they're showing in the book.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
on 144.
What do they call it in the
Same
book?
thing.
Seated angle?
And
That's
Uba
Vista?
Vista.
This
Okay,
is-
thank you.
Why, like, okay,
Yeah.
so it's basically what you just said, see.
Exactly,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
yes.
perfect.
So just think, yeah, exactly, it's what I did, but seated. This is one that I will, if you wanna know kind of supports. This is like more like a supportive, but then you can do. Hinge at the hips, come forward where you can, and then you can let yourself rest your forehead on a block.
I don't think we did bound angle and child pose, but I feel like we know that.
Bound angle, yeah, I'm trying to see.
Yogic sleep pose looks incredibly sweet.
What is it?
Yogic sleep pose.
What's the last one? Is that what?
On this list,
Yeah.
but this photo's. Or.
So that's.
It sounds good. Sleep.
It's
Oh my
I know,
gosh.
I thought it was gonna be easy.
I
but-
totally forgot about this. I used to be able to do this. I am not gonna even attempt to try to do
No,
this
that
now.
does not look good.
Yogic sleep.
Look at this, look at the third picture of
Who's
her.
sleeping like that?
She looks like so relaxed.
I know, she does.
The third picture of her, that's
Like,
hilarious.
look how her legs, her hips are just completely rotated.
Yeah. I
So,
don't even know how to
Oh my
get
How
it.
is that possibly considered a sleep pose?
I don't know.
That's how I sleep every night.
yeah, I'm just, yeah, I mean, that is something, I mean, I would definitely, if you're going to even get into, try to get into something like that, you're definitely you wanna do hip openers, like either like this or on your back, of course.
Like maybe plow. Like starting in plow pose.
Right, it does kind of seem flower-ish.
I don't know.
No, I mean, it's more, plow's just gonna be more for like, I mean, shoulder, where like, this is what's really needs to happen is like spine and like, you know, the whole like getting, yeah, not happening. I used to do it. Now I like want to try to do it.
Oh my gosh.
No, I
But
like-
how do you then get back down on your back?
You have to like, I like hook and then I
Roll.
forget how I used to do it, but like, yeah, it's, I'm not gonna be able to do it.
Yeah, that one was rough.
But
After yogic sleep.
Yeah.
yeah, but you can do, you know, final relaxation like that. if you want. So yeah, I mean, that. I mean, is, okay, so wait, we didn't do that, we didn't do child's pose, I mean, that's, again, child's pose we know, but like different supports that you can use, of course. If someone can't get back, like, you know, you can use like blankets under, I'm just pretend this is like blanket stack. You know, you can do blankets, you can have, you know, block whatever height they need it. You know, so just making sure they're supported. So just try to get, you know, have that, more of an open mind of like, being able to see like, okay, these are some other options I could do if you see someone like really struggling and they're like this. And you're like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do with this person?
And knees can be apart or together, right? Either. is
Yeah, so exactly, usually knees apart just allows someone's like
Right, so
torso to
yeah.
like sink, you know, and chest to sink deeper. But yeah, I mean, this is fine too, if it's closer together, yeah. Yeah, any other questions?
And then bound angle is just this, right? I think we did that, yeah, okay,
That's when you fold forward.
yeah, okay,
So yeah, so
Bottom
Baddha Konasana,
yeah,
again, finding like ground through the sit bones, because that's something that's sometimes people won't be able to feel, or like they round here, so ground through sit bones, and if hands on the feet is not like really accessible without rounding, just let them hold on to their shins, and the chest can be much more open. And again, you're hinging at the hips, leading with pubic bone first, heart center. Head stays in line with the spine. And then eventually, of course, you can then soften.
Yeah, so in this pose, you can also round your back,
You can,
right?
yes, yeah. It's just, again, you're not starting off like that way. It's like, okay, we're gonna go as deep as possible. Because again, it's reinforcing, like, if someone hasn't done it or, you know, only knows that way of like, oh yeah, I wanna get as deep as possible, that's like, we wanna try to
Start with straight and then.
lengthen, because that's what's, again, the whole point of, you know, part of yoga is like the energetic connection and keeping the flow of prana, you know, moving, and like this, any kind of like rounding or hyperextending is like cutting off that, the flow, or like lessening the flow.
So the basic foundation is to get your
Length.
spine, the length and spine, so you have to work on that.
Length
to
is
get to
first,
the main
right,
expression,
right,
the entire expression of the pose.
right.
For all of those, I noticed spine straight, that's the hardest.
That's the, right, but that's exactly it, like I said, it's gonna sound like a recorder, but for all like forward folds, I mean, in other poses too, you wanna maintain the length in the spine. So first, how are you gonna get your student to find the length in their spine? And so that's like step one. And then step two, hinging at the hips.
Some classes that I want to have like encourage doing a bind or like a reverse namaste with your hands when you're doing forward folds until you can't bend any further, because it forces you into your spines, right?
Right, and that's good, it is a helpful hand position, but it's not always accessible for everyone. Like if someone has a shoulder injury, not happening. So yeah, it definitely is helpful, but the other thing, I mean, if you're trying to do something like that, would be, I mean, hands clasped,
Yeah.
folding, or hold one wrist and pull out. And then, you know, if you do it again or whatever on the other side, you can do that.
How about holding both elbows? I've seen that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, and that's exactly, that was another one. And you just let your forearms rest on the back, you're not trying to lift them away. So, I mean, there's many options, again, give the options, because that's what's helpful for, again, it being like inclusive and allowing people to like play around with it, and not just being like, we're gonna do the one way, and then they're like, I can't get into it, and they're like, so like, go from, you know, what is, or maybe you don't, maybe you give a few variations, but maybe you stay in like an easier variation, or maybe you do, I'm gonna show you this way, but then you could also do this way too, but then you go back to the easier variation, so then people don't feel like, oh, I have to do that thing.
Right.
Because again, they're usually, students are impressionable and they like want to do what the teacher does. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Work on hamstrings. Even for personal practice, right? Like you really work on your hamstring stretch
yeah,
for all of these.
no, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, oh yeah,
Just like
hamstrings,
forward,
yes,
straight.
back of the legs,
Yeah.
yes, like
It's a lot
your
of working
glutes,
out on
yeah,
this.
your back,
Mhm.
all of that. I mean, as you probably felt, it's all, yeah, all back of the body, a lot of it is getting stretched. Yeah, so
Hamstring sequence.
yeah, hamstring, yeah, exactly, so, I know you all haven't, I haven't been giving breaks at all, but I'm glad that you've been getting up and taking breaks, because I just am going on and on, but, so take a little bit of time, you can take a break, I'm thinking, I don't know, what I wanna do with groups, how we can do
What we've done
this.
is it's on. That's what we've done, like 3 people
three people, yeah, so we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, I'm just thinking, I know
Kate is
online,
not
I'm
here.
thinking
Okay.
how,
Okay.
I'm like the worst with this because with Zoom, it's like always so, like, this is where I kind of want to, I guess, figure out what would be helpful. Okay, so let's just, I guess, have a conversation about this. Would it be helpful to, since we have Zoom going on as well, should we do something where it's as a class, like one of you choose to, one of you is gonna be the student, one's gonna be the teacher, and you come up, I know that's may feel like more anxiety provoking, but again, like, it's for us all, like, of the learning experience of like, and trying just to be relaxed with it and not like, I know easier said than done, but like trying to be relaxed within like, okay, we're all learning and just trying to teach whatever the pose or the routine is, like, so trying to get the student into the pose and seeing if any of you, the ones that aren't doing the pose, if there's any like feedback, like, oh, like, is this comfortable for the student? Like, if maybe the student looks like they're uncomfortable and the teacher doesn't see the thing. And maybe then you offer like, well, what if, would it be helpful, like, what if you put this under their knee? And then you put it under their knee and see how they feel. Or so like you get help, you're first teaching it, but then you also are gonna get like some support and help if anyone sees like something that might, look like it needs more
think we could
support or
add-
change. Like, does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making that complete sense. Same thing with what you're saying, if you're having a hard time with like, oh, how am I gonna get them in? That's okay, just try your best, and then we can always like talk about, okay, well, what would maybe be a more helpful way of saying that, it's clear. Again, it's not like being like, oh, you stink, that was like not helpful, it's just like, what can we add to that or help, so, I don't know, that's another way of doing it I've done before, where then it's like everyone, you all are going to, you're a part of like a bigger group, it's like more of a group learning experience than just like, okay, you go off on your groups. And I feel like then instead of me, I don't know, with like, how are we gonna figure out with Zoom? Because I know I could teach, like, I could be the student via Zoom for you, but like, I feel like it's not gonna be helpful, I don't know. It's just,
The truth is that I have to go lie down. I'm just not feeling
Okay.
good.
do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and I will catch up on this with I'll watch the video. This was very helpful for what I was able to follow. But
I hope you feel better, yeah, take care of yourself.
this has definitely turned into a cold.
You
I
can tell
have-
the voice.
Yeah, I just wanted you to know though, I did a COVID test this morning or just this afternoon and it said negative. So
Okay,
that's important for all of you.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You feel better, yeah,
Right.
take care
All
of
right, you
yourself.
guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
You could tell
So I
even
guess
from the
that's-
last time she spoke. the
Oh my
voice
gosh, yeah,
was-
it kicked in, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, so now, I know she left because she's sick, but what do you still wanna stick with that, or would you rather do groups, smaller groups? I mean, I will do whatever you wanna do, I mean.
Yeah, I think we should try it.
Just to break that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like I said, I know it may seem scary, and you might be like, oh my gosh, what, but again, we're all here supporting one another, it's not, so it's not a critique mode, it's like, how can I help you? And how can we all help one another? So, and it's good because then you all get to like, hear everyone, so go to the bathroom, do whatever you wanna do, I'm gonna get a drink of water. And we'll just spend like, whoever we get done or whatever we get done, in a half an hour.
Okay.
And we'll practice like the forward folds, like whatever one. Okay, you can bring your mat up, just center. Who wants to teach?
Forward fold.
Standing forward fold, so Uttanasana.
I'll teach.
That's okay.
Megan, is that okay? Yes, it's a delight.
Stand up and bend over.
I was gonna say something crass, but I didn't. It's about your butt. And I can't do it. Should I go myself. this
Should I do
way?
that?
So that's so good you're saying that. So however you want to be, I mean, honestly,
Okay.
it's that's gonna be best probably because then your bum's not gonna be towards like
Yeah.
anyone and then everyone can see. So yeah, so reminder, yeah, no, try not to do the pose, which
Okay.
is so, I know it's like so appealing to try to do it. But try your best not to, and if you still find yourself doing it, sit down.
Okay, and sit on
And,
my
like, hold
hands.
your- yeah, right.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready, you can go even closer to her if you want.
So I'm just thinking like forward fold, correct?
Yes, right, and if
Okay.
there's anything
Okay.
you want her to have like right now, like if you're like, oh, I wanna give her blocks, or-
Yes.
yeah, just tell her to do whatever.
I'll hold my tea so that way I won't.
Oh, that's good.
Here's another block too, is it smaller, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, come to the front of your mat. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Bring your feet together with your toes touching. And raise your hands above your head, inhaling. And hinge at your hips, keeping your back straight. Oh, I forgot the blocks, sorry, start over.
I should have said, put the blocks in front of you.
No
I'm
problem.
sorry, I was gonna have you come to your blocks.
So before you do anything else, anything overhead is a loaded pose and going forward with no core engagement, like it's one of the hardest things you can have someone do. So I would avoid that if you are,
Oh, so
were
hands
going
on
there.
hips. Okay.
So like, no, if you were gonna go like this down, no. Like it would either be hands on hips or any of the behind or, heart center, but not this.
What about like swan?
What about
swan? I heard that.
Swan, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. But again, what are the two things? First, finding length in the spine. Second, hinging of the hips. So those are the first things you wanna try to guide her to notice in her body.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so come to, if you can put your blocks on the medium, the middle setting, turn them the other way, yeah, perfect. Bring them maybe a little bit closer to you. Okay, awesome. Move to the front of your mat. Your feet together. Inhale in. Put your hands on your hips. Exhale, and we're gonna practice, we're gonna do forward fold. So you want to keep in mind, you want to keep your spine straight and you want to hinge at your hips. So go ahead and take a breath and fall forward, keeping your head and your neck in line, as far down as you can go. When you can't go any further with a straight back, place your hands in front of you on the blocks. Okay?
What does she need to do? What, does she look comfortable? Should I do this? So what does she need to do? Anyone call it out?
Blocks
Oh,
closer.
These,
Blocks under, wrists under the
Blocks closer.
shoulders, higher. Knees maybe bent.
Slight
Yeah.
bend in the knees.
something about the neck.
The head and.
Oh, I was gonna have her do the full surrender, like after she took a couple breaths, is that right? Like in that
Sure, but
position?
now she still doesn't look long. Does she look long through her spine?
No.
So what do we need to do to get her like in her spine?
Push
Can I go
your
down to
hips
the
back. Push your hips back. That
So
looks
this is-
better.
This is where I'd have her come all the way out of the pose. When someone's like in it, it's so awkward to try to then be like push hips back or like, even though she did it. Just have them come out of the pose. Just
Okay.
come back to center. And I know it sounds like I'm just like going at it, like just
Oh,
go,
no,
but
this is
so
good.
just a few things. So
Feet
feet apart, hips distance apart.
Okay.
because this is not stable.
Okay, that's.
I
fine.
mean, it wasn't stable for you?
I thought maybe I had been doing it wrong, but I was wishing that I could have my feet a little bit further apart. But I have hip issues, so that's helpful for me.
Well, that's what Kate was telling us too, a lot of the poses were developed by men, so they can
Yeah.
do it with their feet.
Right, because they have
Together, 'cause
narrow
they have
hips,
the
right,
narrow
yeah,
hips.
yeah,
Right,
so
I
in
forgot that.
general, hips distance apart,
Okay.
unless there's something that needs to be like tweaked, it's hips distance apart. Like unless you're doing something like, you know, chair or something that maybe you can have your feet a little bit closer together, but even then you don't have to have them touching.
Okay.
Okay.
So hands on hips, I would say just keep those.
Okay.
We're good.
So feet. Hip width distance apart. Take a breath, and hinge forward at your hips, keeping a straight back and your neck in line, pushing your hips back towards the back of the room. Okay, now reach for the blocks in front of you. And then fold down, tuck in your head, and yeah, take your hands off the blocks, touch the floor.
Does that feel comfortable in your neck? It doesn't, okay, it doesn't look comfortable. Are you really trying to tuck your chin towards your collarbone?
So I should just be like,
Just let your head hang, do not tuck it towards your collarbone.
yeah, I was doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
soften your
Soft,
knees
yeah, but it's like a-
even more. Bring your hands to the blocks. Medium height. Soften your elbows. How's that feel?
Good. Is my neck better?
Doesn't look comfortable though.
No?
Are you comfortable?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not in pain.
Right, it's like, well, is it comfortable or is it not?
Well, should I have just stopped here?
It looked better there.
Yeah,
to be
you wanna
honest with
Do you know what I
Stop
mean?
here.
Like, do we have
So-
to go?
Yeah, so it was, I would just keep just the length in the spine because it was, if you are gonna have her surrender forward, it was too fast. Like it was like, okay, we're here and then we're.
Okay.
And so, and she could have corrected more in the lengthening because there were some things that I noticed were a little bit off. That I don't know if anyone else saw or you felt when you
I
were.
forgot to soften my knees again at the beginning. But no, I would love to know, like what,
Was her butt too far down?
So that was the other thing, I don't think your bum needs to go back. I don't know,
Oh,
do it again
okay.
and see, let's do the whole like, so, but,
I see what,
so
Okay.
like, see what it feels like there versus then like shooting your bum back like you did and,
Maybe it's her neck, maybe she just needs
yeah,
to
just
slightly
there,
tuck her
that's it,
chin.
that's it, right there.
Maybe that's
That
what it
looks
was. That looks good.
What, how does your, knees
I
bend?
forgot, I constantly forget about my knees.
Yeah.
This feels good.
Yeah.
And like, imagine like you're leading with your heart center towards the floor. So that's probably a bad cue because you're folding forward more. I just mean like opening the heart towards the floor more. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it's just was like, you just need a
I
little
see.
more opening through the chest, not a drop down, but a I'm opening. Okay, so then, yeah, into the hips, yeah.
Easier said than done.
It's hard,
Yeah, right?
it's hard. Good
Like
job.
I was thinking,
Yeah, good
about
job.
how Abby looked when she was on the blocks and like with her back so aligned, but I guess I was not getting there. So for me, maybe just being in that middle kind of
Yeah,
half
right,
left is
don't
fine.
do, yeah, right,
Yeah.
just because again, if I was like down further than half,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter again, like, because if you're like rounding this to
Right.
get down there, it's not, don't do it, just
yeah,
find what feels like, oh, I feel open, I am working, but I feel length in my spine, and just hold that, and that might mean like you have to conjure your fingertips on those blocks.
right, okay.
And
Okay.
that's fine too, but
But that's something to practice now that I know.
yeah, right,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. That's fine. Okay, next is wide-legged forward bend. And this could be, I mean, really, it could be seated or if you wanna do standing. I can like, anyone wanna
I can be the student for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just bring your hand up. Any props?
I think this is helpful, by the way, because we all get to kind of see and learn.
Yeah, and what one person like sees like sometimes we don't like necessarily, you know, we might be like, I don't see that, and then like it's like, oh yeah, like that is.
Yeah, just different too.
Just standing and sit.
What do you-
So we are doing.
So it can be, yes, exactly, yeah, so if you want,
What is the name?
so standing forward fold, so wide-legged, yes, yes, so, and however you wanna get her into it, you know, and props and things like that.
So first have your props ready, to both the sides of your mat, each block.
Like here.
Oh, no, middle of the mat.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, stand in the middle of the mat. Widen both your legs, one foot apart. More. Yeah, that's good. And then I want you to stay straight, spine straight. Belly slightly tucked in. And looking forward. Take a deep breath. And hinge from your waist as you exhale. And then if you're more advanced, you can go slightly forward, or option one, you can stay there. You can put your hands on the blocks. And take a couple of breaths. Inhale, exhale. And then if you're more comfortable, you can reduce the length of your block. Stay there.
Anyone see anything that needs adjusted?
Yes.
The neck.
So tell her what, don't, yeah,
Yeah.
say what you want her to do.
If you can look down and lengthen your neck and take a deep breath. Exhale. And then if you're more comfortable, you can go a little more further down with lowering your back blocks.
Any,
Look in middle of your hands, in between your hands.
how does that feel?
It's a little
Your,
tense.
are your knees hyperextending?
No, they have a micro bend.
Okay,
Like
what feels uncomfortable?
Lower back.
Maybe widen your legs a little bit more. That's
Yeah.
right.
I
No,
can't
or
tell
not.
from where I am, but are your pants under your shoulders?
I think so.
Or are they closer?
Draw your low belly in. So draw navel or low pubic bone towards the navel center, towards the spine.
That's rounding your back.
What does that feel like?
Less tension on my back,
Bring your feet closer together, a little bit closer.
like that.
Yes,
Would it help if her blocks were raised?
and I would do highest
Okay.
and just stay there. I know you might be able to go deeper, but just how does that feel? Low belly drawn in, but when you draw the low belly in, you start to arch the spine. And we just want to find like length in the low back. Yeah,
What
Good.
about
Looks
broadening
very
the
good.
shoulder?
I think that looks, how does that feel though?
That feels better.
Okay, so bring your hands to your hips, bend your knees and start to hinge at the hips and slowly start to come up. Because you were down there for a while, so, and then heel toe your feet closer together. Good. So, okay, thoughts about, guiding points. So, anyone have suggestions?
I noticed, Abby put her hands on her hips when hinging without the cue.
Yes, you did, and I don't like, I know I tend to be like, I wanna say things. I wanted to just let it all like go through, teach it, but yes, just a reminder.
so that.
Yeah, so, well, no, and it's okay, but whatever is said, so like hinge at the hips, you immediately went like this, and I wanted you to just go like this. Because she didn't say hands on hips, so I want, because I want her to see that she didn't say that.
Right, okay.
And so I want you to do exactly what the person says, because that's gonna feel really uncomfortable in your back. So these are the things, so thank you, you don't have to, yeah, you can take your mat back, and yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything else.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, she's gonna call you.
The other thing too, I think the word, like, again, I know I'm calling out like different things, I said this earlier about like how words matter, and like, so when you say, you had, I think you had said tuck your stomach in.
Yes.
So draw your low belly under, draw your, whatever, be specific with what it is, so, there's one other thing that was, so just like little things like that, that it's just being like a little bit, and again, we're all, you're like just learning these things. Again, I'm just calling them out, just to be more aware of like the certain things when you do say them. And so I can't think of anything else. There was like, I know there was something that I'm not remembering, like whenever she was down and self-corrected. It was like self-corrected thing. I think it was like the chin drawing down or something, but it doesn't matter. It was good. I'm glad that you both got to practice and you got to experience that. And again, like, I think it's good, again, getting the feedback of like what, because even if it looks good, like in our eyes, it might not be feeling good to you. So that's why it's like good to like, you know, kind of go around and see. So yeah, I think we have like, wait, let's see what time it is, probably. Down dog, anyone want to do down dog? Last but not least.
We'll do done.
Okay. One you ready to talk?
Have her going from sensitization. I'm just trying to think of like, I can.
Yeah, all fours
maybe?
On all fours.
I like totally just blanked.
Yeah, so you just tell her how you want her to start. Come
Okay.
to all fours.
Okay, yeah. Let's have a tabletop position with your hands planted beneath your shoulders and your hips over your knees and your feet about hip width apart as well. And you can turn your toes under, spread your fingers, pressing into the space between your index finger and thumbs, firmly into the arms. And when you're ready, you can press into your press into your feet, lifting your hips to the ceiling, and drop your head between your arms. Lengthen through or rather extend the hips to the ceiling, drawing back your abdominal muscles toward your spine, and lengthen through your shoulders, pressing your heels toward floor.
Bend your knees a little bit. Soften through your heart. How's your neck feel?
Neck, and I don't know.
Bring your ears in line with your
Arms.
upper arms, your forearm. Does that feel like tension? I'm like trying to see where you're.
Feel fine.
It feels okay.
The only other thing I point saying, it's like maybe you could pedal each foot and, I don't know, that probably could have come first just to get a
Yeah,
little bit
and
of
loosen things up.
movement there.
Whenever you wanna come down, you can come down.
I was gonna send you into some more stuff. so-
Good job.
That was good. Thank you. With
Yeah.
the exception of not knowing how to start, that was fun.
Yeah, so yeah, it's the, which, I mean, I think, did it work? I mean, for you, I mean, hearing the cues?
Yes, I think it was good.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the only thing I was gonna say is it worked for her. But the way that, you could also say, slow, tuck the toes under, slowly start to lift your knees off of the floor. That
Oh.
requires you to press through your hands and your feet. You don't have to say press through your hands and your feet, just start to lift your knees off the floor. And I think I may have said before, like, lift your sit bones towards the ceiling, and like, see where they go from there, and then the attention, you can either draw the attention to the hands when they're on their knees, like you did, as the foundation, or once they're up again, remind them about hands and pressure and, but yeah, I mean,
One other thing I was confused about, because your neck didn't look comfortable, but I feel like some traditions, you're really tucking the neck, like you're looking up at your stomach.
okay.
What's a good cue for that, for the neck? Because we all seem to have like the neck. is a go.
Like when you were in it, I wanted to see it in alignment with your arms, but I know that I was taught that you're almost looking up at your stomach.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I would say you wanna find length in it, you don't wanna be, I mean,
Really
that
tucking.
maybe, you don't wanna be
Right.
drawing under.
Um,
I would say ears in line with upper arms is like a neutral spot,
That looks good.
Yeah.
because you don't wanna be doing this.
Right,
You
right.
don't wanna be doing this. So ears, I just try to get them in line with the upper arms.
Yeah.
Ears in line with the
Like
upper
here.
arm, so you're,
Sure, so it's in between your arms, and I think
yeah.
you're right, yeah, I just thought, what's it that?
I just was trying to see, yeah, your hair, I was like, I think it is.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but,
Cause that looks
Yeah.
good, just.
yeah, and the other thing, last thing, but not least, just doesn't matter if the heels can get to the floor.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't even have to, because I think even once you bring the attention of trying to get the heels to the floor, someone's like trying to press down then. So like, just focus on how their torso looks, because again, that's the most important thing. And then if their heels are off the floor, who cares, like, bend the knees to let them lengthen more. So focus more up here than like, oh, where their heels are, because that's not the important part.
One thing that would have been helpful was, I was holding my breath.
I
Oh.
was gonna say that,
Oh,
are you
right.
breathing?
I was gonna ask
Yeah.
you that, and I was, I
I
could
can tell you were holding your breath.
Oh.
See, so this is something, again, as you go forward and, keep doing this, that is something to remind
Right.
yourself. The breathing, like I said earlier, I think that's one of the things we forget, or we think, oh, maybe we say too much, and it's never enough. Tell
Yeah.
them,
Great.
when you get them in the pose, they're probably focused on everything you're telling them, and they're like,
Take a breath.
That's
so
what it
just
is.
say, focus
Yeah.
on your breath. The other thing, and I promise I'll be done, is you don't have to prompt people to breathe, like inhale, exhale. Just tell them to breathe. You don't have to tell them when, because you don't know when they need to inhale and exhale. So just tell them to breathe. Yeah, and that's it. And then that takes stress off of you of being like, inhale, exhale, unless you're doing some sort of sun salutation, but you at least tell them like, this is, you inhale up, exhale down, so they know the general gist of linking breath and movement, so. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Yeah,